dolls. This is my first ever video essay on this channel, one of my first ever long form videos, and what better way to spend it than to complain about human expenditure program. I've retried this video over and over and over and over and over again, so hopefully this time it works. I'm going to give the shortest recap of Bloodmoney as possible, but still feel free to skip this if you played the game already. Bloodmoney follows you, the player, as you need $25,000 for an operation. You find a man in a booth on the side of the road named Harvey, who offers to give you $1 every time you click on him. You also have the choices to get more items that will give you more dollars per click, but will cause Harvey more pain. As the game goes on, Harvey starts seeming more and more aware, even talking to you, the player. And I don't need to recap Human Expenditure Program, as I will explain the plot of that game as I go along. This is a very shortened version, so I do recommend playing Bloodmoney first, as it is a very well-made game. Alright, now on to the video. And welcome back, everyone who skipped the recap. Also, keep in mind, these are just my opinions. While you're free to give your own in the comments below, and I do encourage you to do so, I will delete or block any rude and hateful comments. I'll try and sprinkle in a few good things along with the bad in my review. This game, while very flawed, still has a couple positives. For instance, Part 1, the voice acting. I'm sure this doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, but my goodness, the VAs are so talented. Dexter Manning kills it as Harvey Harvington, even though he's not given as much of a chance to shine here as he is in Bloodmoney. His ability to perform is especially shown in the later two games, where he hits every single line so agonizingly well, especially in the last part of the game. Chef's kiss, dude. Then there's Unmi, voice acted by the amazing Abigail Kim. I wasn't completely sold on her performance from the first line I saw in the trailer, but my goodness was I proven wrong. I feel like most people don't talk nearly enough about how stellar she did in this game. She doesn't get nearly enough voice acting time in my opinion, but in the little bits of dialogue she gets, she does amazing, especially at the end, with Unmi's panic and despair. I don't like Unmi's character at all, but Abigail saves her as much as she possibly can with her acting. Go give her some love at Abigail Kim VA. Also, on the very, very, very low chance that the VAs are watching, 1, oh my goodness, I'm a huge fan of all of you, and 2, please keep in mind that everything I say is not going to be a critique of any of your works as voice actors. Part 2, the design. This isn't really a hot take per se, but good golly, Miss Molly, do I hate Harvey's new design. Before I keep going, I would like to say I do love the art style, and I do love the new art, it just doesn't look like Harvey. First off, it's in a semi-realism style that just does not really work in my opinion. The original Harvey is really cutesy and really chibi, and that makes the grotesque gore make even more of an impact. The fact there's not as much detail or shading in Bloodmoney makes the extreme detail in, say, his empty eye socket look all the better. Makes it even scarier, especially as Harvey's design starts getting slightly more realistic as the game goes on. But now, the blood and such is just in the same style as the rest of Harvey, so it doesn't really pop out as much. And also, I think that a lot of Harvey's more cartoonish design elements just do not work in semi-realism. His completely smooth face, his light pink hair, I know he dyes it, but still, his impossibly shaped pupils and extremely light eyes, it all doesn't really look right in semi-realism. But even with all that, I could forgive the art change if it just looked like Harvey, but it doesn't. Harvey's original design is almost entirely made of round angles, which is important because it subconsciously makes us think he looks more innocent and huggable. But this new design is almost all sharp angles. His jaw, his eyes, his suit, even his hair, it's all extremely sharp, so it makes him look more like a cosplayer pretending to be Harvey than Harvey himself. I can't really think of a story reason for it either. Maybe it's meant to be more realistic into the real person in the game, but his design should still stay the same in both Bloodmoney and Human Expenditure Program. Overall, I just don't like or understand this change, as I'm sure you could tell. Part 3, the minigames. The minigames are pretty good. I'm not going to go over each of them in detail because there's nothing really special about any of them, but they're all definitely fun, they all fit the Tamagotchi aesthetic, and my favorite one for the one person interested is the heavy lifting minigame. Though that's mostly because I figured out that if you spam the space button and the enter key at the same time, it's basically impossible to lose. Ooh, I got so many mood points for doing that. Anyway, it is a little bit frustrating that you have to use the arrow keys and not WASD, but that's more of a subjective thing than anything. And then Whack-A-Harvey is a bit odd because you'd think it would make his mood worse, not better to play in, but I'm a sucker for any whack-a-mole inspired games, so I like this one still. Also, I freaking love the VA for the announcements. In the baseball minigame, it's hilarious how disappointed they get if you miss the ball multiple times, which is very easy to do because this minigame is pretty hard to understand. Or maybe I'm just stupid. I cannot find the VA for this, unfortunately, but if you can find them, please tell me. However, you might have noticed that I left out one specific minigame. Save Harvey. I hate this one. Not because of the idea, not because of the graphics or even the gameplay, but because of how completely worthless this minigame is. And I'm not just saying that. This minigame is built up so heavily, what with it being in question marks for most of the game, then it finally gets unlocked for exactly one day, and it's free as well. And on top of that, it's called Save Harvey. My goodness, this minigame must be extremely important for the— No, it's not. It's not. Not only is it unbeatable, not only does it have no effect on the story or characters, but it doesn't even reveal anything new. I kid you not, this minigame could be removed from the game and it would affect absolutely nothing. Nada. I understand it's meant to show Harvey can't be saved or something, but you can do that with it still affecting the ending in some way. And that draws me to the fourth point I have to make, which directly goes with this one. Part 4, endings, or lack thereof. Now, you might be surprised with this, but I genuinely enjoy the true ending, even though it's very bleak and grim. What? I like something in this game? What a shock. Like with Bloodmoney, Human Expenditure Program has it be that if you just go through the regular route, you get a bad ending, or the true ending in this case. I really like this. There's nothing wrong with this ending. That's not what I have the problem with. The problem I have with it is the fact that it's literally the only ending in Human Expenditure Program, period, end of story. Do not be fooled by the 2 endings in the game description, even the fact that the one ending is called the true ending, because there are no other routes. The other one, the dead ending, is literally just a game over screen. If you don't feed him or keep his mood up, he dies. Wow, shocker! That's not an ending! If you die in Bloodmoney in that one keep clicking scene, is that considered an ending? No, of course not, because it's really just an Easter egg. It doesn't reveal anything new other than the fact that Harvey can die, I guess, but we already find that in the original ending. Why is it considered an ending here? Just like the Save Harvey minigame, it's completely, absolutely worthless! And the worst part is that this is such an easy fix. Just have it be where if you beat the Save Harvey minigame, you get an ending. Boom! Now they both actually add something. One of the biggest draws, in my opinion, of Bloodmoney is that there are several endings. The good one, the neutral one, and the bad ending. And all of them provide something new for the player to chew on, and all of them are at least important. I'm not saying there can't be a true ending in Expenditure Program, but that can't be the only one. I think the lack of any endings is the reason for the sharp decline I've seen in the fandom regarding Bloodmoney content, because there is nothing to work with. There's no room for interpretation, because we know everything that could feasibly happen, and there's no room for theory crafting either. Either Harvey dies, or he dies, and it's extremely disappointing. Part 5, dialogue. You're gonna get whiplash here because this is a positive thing! In my opinion, well, some of it is bad. For the most part, Human Expenditure Program, it has absolutely amazing dialogue, and even superior to the original Bloodmoney in some cases. I mean, it's just so well executed, from Unmi's gaslighting to Harvey wanting to argue back but giving up, and eventually his full breakdown, leading to one of the most heartbreaking lines I've heard from any game.
Someone actually fucking loves me.
And the ending almost made me cry, almost solely because of how well written and realistic the dialogue is. And also, of course, the amazing voice actors. Even some of the more minor stuff, like Harvey saying,
I can't do that.
At, I believe, day 4 or 5, when we try to get him to do one of the more physically demanding minigames, it all feels so human and natural for the most part. But then there's the first day. The first day's dialogue almost makes me feel like Human Expenditure Program's main character wasn't meant to be Unmi, given Harvey having the same NPC-like dialogue he had at the beginning of Bloodmoney, which I didn't mind in that game because it was meant to represent every normal clicker, and he's explaining a game that Unmi designed to... Whoa, what did I write in this script? Okay, retry. He's explaining a game that Unmi designed to Unmi for seemingly no reason. It would make sense for him to do this if he was talking to a random person, but definitely not Unmi. I know this is a small detail, but it's one of the many things in this game that breaks immersions. Part 6, choices. Now, in the original game, every single choice you made mattered significantly. That was literally the entire point of Bloodmoney. How far will you go? It's even in the official song. But here there's absolutely nothing the player can do that will affect anything. There are no dialogue options, no choices. The game is just set in stone. I mean, sure, you can try to keep Harvey from getting hungry, but even that doesn't affect any of the dialogue. There's never a time where he starts asking for food or anything like that. You just wake up and he dies. If you get the dead ending, that is. Ending in air quotes. And his mood meter matters even less. I'd think that the happier you kept Harvey, the more likely he'd be to believe you, but no, it literally does not matter. There's no cutscenes, no new lines. Those bars might as well not even exist. I understand we are playing as a character, Unmi, but that does not change the fact that there should at least be something that you can do to affect anything at all. Even in the game's itch.io page, it makes it seem like you'll have options to make sure Harvey forgets. I had originally assumed that every day you'd have to try and lie to Harvey about what was going on, and you'd have to pick better or worse options, but there's nothing even remotely similar. It makes for a rather boring, very non-replayable experience. Part 7, details! Another good thing about the game, I like all the little details they added. My favorite ones include that the whack of Harveys will start missing an eye once the big Harvey does, the fact you can make Harvey throw up, and that when Harvey asks you if you'll fix him, he says if you say no, he'll reply with, "I don't want to hear these fucking jokes! I'll ask you again." It's just a shame there's not more of them, in my opinion. Part 8. Eunmi's mediocre villainhood. Back to the negative. Now, Eunmi's negative character is mostly tied to how awful the story is in this game, but I'll try to keep it separate. Eunmi is possibly one of the worst villains I have ever come across in my entire life, which is awful because the idea of a woman abusing a man in a romantic relationship is revolutionary and extremely important to show in media. But Eunmi's motivation and characterization makes absolutely no sense. Her motivation's changing every single second. This game cannot decide whether she loves Harvey or not, and I don't mean she's just too complex for me to understand. I mean, the game wants us to think she cares when Harvey dies, despite her refusing to take him out of the game for no reason. It would make sense if she let Harvey die so there would be no evidence, but if that's the case, then it's never ever applied that. It's also never implied there's no way for her to take him out of the game, except maybe that the reset operator broke, but even then, that's seemingly just tied to his memories, not his physical state. And she doesn't seem to have any reason for her to torture her husband. There is the money thing, but we'll discuss why that's a ridiculous reason soon. But even with that motive, it's still nonsensical. Now, I'm not saying abusers need to have sensical reasons to be abusive, or that it is ever the victim's fault, but they typically have something they use to justify it in their own minds. Think about a parent who slaps their child for spilling something. That makes no logical sense, but it is a reason. I wouldn't even mind if it was just a senseless hatred Eunmi had for her husband, but the game never shows her even disliking Harvey, except for a few times where she insults him for being a pushover, which is not nearly what the game needed to have Eunmi torture Harvey for no reason. And then her seemingly genuinely upset when he dies makes no sense with what's set up. The worst part is, we could have had a genuinely complex abuser who actually feels a twisted love towards her husband, but the game never shows anything similar to that. Honestly, I can't help but wonder if Eunmi wasn't the original villain of the story. The only hints that we had that this was even remotely planned was the dev answering that Eunmi wasn't very helpful of Harvey's recovery in the normal ending of Bloodmoney. In Bloodmoney, Harvey says his wife would need him, and that is the only mention we get of her at all. In the game's itch.io page, it doesn't even say Eunmi's name. I understand they might have wanted it to be a surprise, but it is quite literally revealed in the first few seconds that it's her doing this. Again, me bringing up the itch.io page, it says, "You remember what you did, don't you? You've done to Harvey. You know very well you can't undo what you've done." All of the prose is in the past tense, despite the fact that Eunmi is torturing Harvey now. You remember what you did, what you've done, instead of you know what you're doing, what you do to Harvey. It makes it feel like some of the add-ons in the plot were added in last minute, but of course I don't have very much evidence of that. It's just a crazy conspiracy theory. Final part, the story. Story with air quotes. The story. My goodness, this story makes absolutely no sense, which is what I'm here to explain. Alright, now stick with me here. Eunmi somehow manages to put her husband into a computer simulator. It's never explained how, but I am willing to suspend my disbelief for this one thing. And also, it turns out Bloodmoney is a real game in universe, and Eunmi forces her husband to be trapped in this game for other people to play with him, and that somehow the game money is translated both to her real account and to the Tamagotchi version of Harvey in the same time that she resets his memory after each night. You got that? Me neither. There are so many freaking plot holes with this, it's crazy. First off, if Harvey's a real person but trapped in a real game, one that is said to be popular, what happens if more than one player turns on the game at the same time? We know Harvey can see through the screen, so does he see two people at the same time? Does his dialogue double? What happens if one person joins the game when another person is at the middle of him? Do they just spawn in with Harvey looking damaged? How does that work? And what about happened to the original story of Bloodmoney, where the player needs 25k and sees a man in a booth? Why would Eunmi program this in? How does Harvey not see a narrator? Is he blind? Because remember, he can see everything that's happening in-game and outside of the screen. Shouldn't he be suspicious on why he's in a random game and not his simulator? And why does Bloodmoney have freaking endings? Or the normal ending, which canonically has to take place weeks or months after the start of the game? In what universe does this make sense when Harvey has to be reset at the end of each night? Why would me program in hospital visits for him so he could get the eye patch? I once again raise the question, what if one person gets the bad ending while another gets a good ending at the same time? Does the game bug out? And Eunmi only lets the game be played when Harvey goes to sleep. What if someone tries to sign in while he's awake? Does her plan just get ruined? Do you think we're done with this stupidity? No, absolutely not. You see that time card? We're probably not even close to done. Stick with me here. So, Eunmi is doing this for money, right? Which begs the question, what money does she make off of this? It says that 25k is deposited into her crypto wallet? So with the money she makes, the digital coins you see in Bloodmoney, well then Eunmi must be a god if she can just spawn in money whenever she wants into a video game. That'd be like if you played Mario and every gold coin you got was directly put into your bank account. And that would mean every other player who played the game got the money as well, which in real life, nobody gets any money from playing Bloodmoney, obviously. And need magical mystery money she does make is spent on the Tamagotchi version of Harvey, so she's not making any crypto anyway. I hear you asking, well, maybe it's the money she makes off of people buying blood money. Blood money is free! It is in real life, and normally I wouldn't bring that up, but they specifically showed Blood Money being a real game, and they never ever hint at it costing money in the game universe. And there definitely can't be that many people buying it because there is never a situation where 2 people play the game at once. She mentions she activated part 2 of her plan. What part 2? Erasing Harvey's memory? That's just to cover up for part 1 of this idiot's plan. And also, why is it that in Blood Money that Harvey does never ever, oh my gosh, what did I write in this script? Why did it just stop? And also, why is it that in Blood Money, Harvey never ever mentions Unmi except for that one time? Sure, his memory gets wiped after it's over, but it never says she wipes his memory of the program existing. So why isn't he screaming for Unmi to stop the game? In no world should he think this is real in Blood Money, especially not when he can canonically see through the screen into the real world in Human Expenditure Program and Blood Money. But even with that, until the end of Blood Money, where you torture him, Harvey always sounds like an NPC. He repeats the same lines over and over again, and even if you restart the games, he won't ever say anything new or even try to fight back until the end. But he never fights back in the way he's described to be in a Human Expenditure Program. Shouldn't he not fight back in some runs and fight back harder in others? Shouldn't he be able to somehow hear the players in Blood Money? And shouldn't he never bring up the operation because he knows it's not real? But Lynette, I hear you saying, that wouldn't be feasible to make into a game because Harvey isn't a real person. Then don't make him canonically a real person in the game universe! Look at that! The problem is solved! Congratulations! Make Harvey an NPC who's come to life or something. Or if you absolutely have to stick with this plot, make Blood Money not canon to the universe. And that is just for the explanations of the background stuff. We haven't even touched on what happens in the events of the actual game. Somehow, Harvey can almost remember some of what happens, like a dream he can't remember. This isn't too bad, but you'd think Unmi would have already fixed that. But then it gets worse. Harvey starts having glitches that are never ever explained and lead to him having real injuries from the tortures, and he doesn't even ask questions about it. I'm not saying he should immediately blame Unmi, but when his eye is gouged out, you'd think he'd be a bit curious at least. And also, how are these glitches even happening? Unmi is clearly a genius, as she can transport a man into a simulation, but she can't fix a few glitches that lead to him keeping some of his injuries. Doesn't even try. Come on. And then we get to the chair. This woman, who's almost never shown to have a temper ever, gets so pissed at the glitches that she throws the chair into the monitor and braces it like a brain-dead moron who has less than 2 brain cells to rub together. And it's conveniently the unit that controls the resets. I mean, you'd think she'd have some protection on that part given how vital it is, but nope, it's just out no bit. What a coinky-dink that's required to make the plot happen. My favorite thing in media. Then we get to the last few nights, and while I do like the dialogue, admittedly, it's still absolutely nonsensical. Harvey manages to break through part of the computer's glass, which he's never been able to do in either game. I mean, come on, you think he'd at least try that in Blood Money, but nope, just here in Human Expenditure Program. And he's apparently just as stupid as his wife, because he doesn't punch just a bit longer to break his way out, because clearly he could do that. It's never stated it'll kill him if he does. But wait, it gets worse, because Harvey somehow manages to get control of the computer, which he's never been shown to be able to do ever. Like, oh my goodness, talk about Deus Ex Machina. Magic hacking powers that Unmi for some reason let him have access to. And instead of just getting himself out, and it's never implied that there's no way out, Harvey decides to delete his own code for no apparent reason, and Unmi, despite seeming upset, just sits there and watches. She tries to press the reset button that she knows is broken, but she never tries to, I don't know, cancel the command! Or do anything with her extreme computer skills that she very obviously has. And the game wants us to feel like she actually cares at the end when she let him die, when she could have just pulled him out of the game. And the players of Blood Money realize somehow that Harvey was a real person by finding the secret message he left, which he left in Human Expenditure Program, not Blood Money. So how did anyone find it? And Unmi created the game anonymously. How did they connect that Unmi even did it? They wouldn't even know what her name was when Harvey mentions it. And then people somehow magically connect that it's not just an Easter egg the creator added to look cool, but means that an actual real person was in the game. What? Why would anyone come to this conclusion? That would be like playing Doki Doki Literature Club and concluding that Monica actually is a real person trapped in a game, not just a character. And the consequences Unmi gets being doxxed despite the fact that, again, they don't even know that's her real name. Mr. Harvey, the person they think is a fictional character, mentions her name in the files, but how would they even know that's not just a code? And she doesn't even get arrested for her numerous human rights violations. My gosh, this game's story is nonsensical, and it's such a shame given how amazing the first game was. Really, Human Expenditure Program was a rushed mess of a game that absolutely destroyed the first game's story. And that's my opinion. Hi, this is the end. Thanks for watching the video. You are probably my friends or parents if you watched all the way through. So, hi, you guys. Anyways, hope everyone enjoyed the video. Bye. My gosh, I